Right then, good evening, you amazing, wonderful people. It's Mark Wilkinson here, live from London. It's fantastic that you're going to join us this evening. It is book club. So on Tuesday evenings, we do the book club. We've got a copy of Life Remixed here, of course. And we go through it chapter by chapter with interesting people who have got their own slant and their own take on everything that's in the book. So chapter 6 is called You Gotta Be. And this was when I was really starting to find my way and start to use some of the self-development techniques that I share in the book. And we're going to discuss them tonight as well. But once I started to find my way, I just found things got quicker and quicker and quicker. And it really started to change, or my life started to really change. But generally, the synopsis of this is that these are the things, right? Why did this happen to me? Okay. Or it's their fault or his fault or her fault or whatever. Or if only I'd done something different, or how I wish things were different, all this kind of stuff. Are these words familiar to you? They certainly were familiar to me when I was younger. But oftentimes when we're going through a rough patch, it's much, much easier to blame others than actually look at our own problems and start to work with them. The hardest part is usually owning up to our mistakes in the first place and then taking responsibility in order to clean up the mess and the problems. So tonight's book club, we're going to be diving into chapter 6, quite literally. Like I said, it's called You Gotta Be, and we'll be talking about forgiveness, taking responsibility, healing, and many, 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 many other subjects in between. And also, of course, I'm going to be joined by two wonderful, wonderful guests, which I'm really pleased to welcome them on. Good evening, Jason. I can see you're watching already. If you'd like to be a part of the stream, then just do pop any questions or anything you'd like to input into the screen, and I'll bring you up on the screen, of course, as well. But let me, without further ado, let me bring in my guests for this evening. Let me bring in the wonderful Charlotte Tarrant. Hi, Charlotte.
Hiya.
How are you?
Nice to be here. Yeah, I'm really good tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. That's great. It's great to see you smiling, and welcome to Book Club. It's really great to have you here. And the one and only, the man himself, Lewis Senior. Hi, Lewis.
Hi. Glad to be here again. Thank you. Good to see you, Charlotte, Mark.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, mate. It's great to have you here. Really appreciate you being a part of it. Of course, Lewis Senior, very kindly, some months ago now, wrote, that's gone quick as well, Lewis, hasn't it? But you wrote part 2 of the foreword to Life Remixed, sandwiched between Danny Rampling, who knew me as a DJ, and of course Kevin Green, who's known me as a business coach and stuff like that. So it was great to have your take on that. And many people have commented about how much they've loved your forward, and then understanding more about personality, diversity, and the e-colours. So of course we'll come on to all of that. And you may notice, or you may or may not notice, Lewis, but the lovely Charlotte is wearing her top colour blue.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Very good, Charlotte. Very good. And we'll, of course, be touching on the e-colours and the progress we're making and all the things we're doing here in the UK, along with Life Remixed and everything else we're doing. So, but let's start with, before I start launching into the chapter and some of the quotes, which I always start a chapter with quotes, then we'll go for everything and then the remix opportunities at the end. Before I do that, I've given you a little intro there, but Charlotte, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing at this moment, and then Lewis will come to you afterwards.
Oh, thank you. That's a lovely opportunity, and yeah, it's great to be here. I started diving into the Life Remix community, I think just at the back end of last year, and it's been amazing. I've connected with my purpose here, which is to inspire courage, hope, love and joy in others. And my passion is writing. So I've also set up my company Starlight Books, and I'm going to be bringing out my first children's book this year. And I just really see that this community has given me some kind of energy and connection that is providing kind of like the rocket fuel to do that. It's all within me, I know that. And there's been some amazing things that have happened in my life, particularly in the last 15 years. But this area was kind of really stuck. But with your help and the great community here, it's kind of coming unstuck. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here on Book Club because I love books. So
yeah, absolutely. And I was, you and I have known each other for some time, but I remember being particularly attracted at one point to a long post you wrote one day, which I sort of picked up as a blog or something about notes to your father, who'd obviously passed away. But you just, honestly, I read it and it just made me, I'm an emotional guy, right? So it just made me, it was beautiful. It brought out beautiful emotions in me. And I was like, Charlotte, wow, what a talent, you know. And, you know, I loved the fact when you reached out to me at the end of last year and said, can you be my coach? And I was like, of course, I'd love to. Then I introduced you to the e-colors, and then we've gone through Life Remixed coaching, all the stuff we're doing together. But just bringing the energy out of you, you know as well as I do, the word education means educo, means to draw out from within. So you've got all the answers, but it's actually sort of like uncovering them all, isn't it? And actually like getting it moving. But Starlight Books is going to be fantastic. And I know that's your mission for writing these children's books, and being able to articulate your purpose like that as well, massively powerful. You know, so many people can't do that. So, yeah, all power to you, Charlotte. It's wonderful to have you here. Hopefully you can both see on the screen here. I've got Dave Valentine just saying, go, Charlotte. So that's cool. That's lovely. Kevin's just saying, looking forward to another great discussion. Jason's saying, good evening, all. And if you're watching on my personal Facebook, Alan's there as well. He's just saying good evening and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Lots of people watching us, and we're going to have a wonderful evening before I disappear for Chelsea's first leg against Real Madrid. Of course, I had to mention it. So, Lewis, it would be a long intro if I let you talk about everything that you've done in your life, mate. But certainly in the last 16, 17 years, you've devised this e-color system that has helped many people across the world with health and safety, productivity, and everything else, all the coaching that goes with it, under the name of Equilibria, of course. Why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself personally, and then, of course, anything you want to add to that as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Charlotte, it's great to see you again. And I just want to pick up on what Charlotte's saying. I think this community that you're forming, Mark, is fantastic. And I think as it grows and grows and grows, which I'm sure it will, it's just going to get more and more interesting. And the amount of people that are going to be positively impacted by what you're doing is quite phenomenal. So we started Equilibria 17 years ago. We've gone through the whole range of safety, leadership, teamwork, training, etc. A lot of communication in that. Done a lot of work in schools. I think it's phenomenal to see 7-year-olds who totally start to understand who they are, which can only help in today's world. And then, of course, COVID in the last year brought a whole new series of challenges for us. We went from a lot of face-to-face coaching, flying around the world. I haven't spent this long at home since I was 16 years old, and I'm loving every minute of it. I don't think I'll ever get on a plane again, frankly. Maybe come and see you, Mark, once in a while, but no further than that. Yeah. I'd love that. But I really love the idea. You know, we talk about purpose. Our vision in Equilibria is realizing potential. And I truly believe that in 99.9% of the population, there is potential, and it's just unlocking it. It's as simple as that. So really looking forward to this evening, and happy to happy to contribute how I can.
Thank you, mate. It's great to have you here. And Caroline saying, hi, Charlotte and Lewis. Great to see you on Mark's Book Club. Great to have you here, Caroline. And if, of course, you've got any messages for myself and the guys, Graham is saying love and light from India as well. So if you've got anything you'd like to say or be a part of, or ask any questions or anything like that, then please do, because we're all here to bring a bit of joy to everybody and a bit of positivity as well. Someone says, hi, all, loving both Mark and Lewis's book, and can't wait to read Charlotte's books too. There you go, Charlotte. So we've got a queue of people waiting to read your book, you know. But this is how we do it. This is how we grow. This is how we add value to each other and each other's lives, you know. So yeah, you're going to be very, very well. You're already successful. You're going to be very, very successful. However you decide to channel that energy, because you've got that positive energy about you. So look, chapter 6 is what we're here to discuss, of course, of Life Remixed. And thank you both very much for being a part of it. I always like to start with a few quotes, and you're more than welcome to chime in if one of these resonates with you. If you've got an experience or something you want to say. The first one is a famous one from Mahatma Gandhi. He says, "Be the change you want to see." I might actually, before I dive in any further, that just makes me think of Lewis, actually. Be the change you want to see, Lewis, because, you know, just tell a little bit about your chapter 1 of your book. Oh, hang on. Your book here is At the End of the Day. I've got a few copies here. And Lewis Senior's book, At the End of the Day, chapter 1 of your book, Be the Change You Want to See. What do you think about that?
Well, it's to cut a long story short, and for anybody who's a top color yellow, they will be able to relate to this. I love to help people, as does Mark, as does Charlotte, and any other yellow around the world. And if I could sum it up very easily, I became a slave to my potential limiter. The desire to help people overrode sense, and I finished off lying on the floor thinking I was actually having a heart attack, just exhausted from trying to help people. So I was given another chance to live, is the way that I look at it. I was laying on the floor, made 4 promises, which you can read about in the book. I promised to spend more time with my family. I promised to never have an argument again, which I've never done since. Listen better and help people to communicate. And that's where I'm at today. And so, yeah, but you got to start with yourself. And that's what Gandhi or anybody else, when it all comes down to it. Gandhi's interesting because not only did something he did quite interesting, he tried everything to make sure it could be done and the change could be made. So when somebody wanted to give up sugar, for example, he tried to give up sugar. He tried everything and got quite famous and infamous for it. But I think there's a phenomenal opportunity for people, especially after this last year of reflection, to go, you know what? I am going to do something different.
I think you're absolutely right. I think in every crisis, there's an opportunity. That's where Life Remixed comes from as well. And I think that, you know, if you, one of my friends, you know, early on in like lockdown 1 or something, one of my friends said, if you're not really excited about looking forward to getting back to your job, whatever you've been working on, then you're in the wrong job. And I just thought it was really profound. You know, it's just basic, but it was like, you know, if you're actually just sitting at home furloughed thinking, well, you know, aren't I having a result here? Then you're in the wrong job. You know, you're not extending yourself and you're not doing something that that's really going to bring value to yourself and others, right? So yeah, really, really important point. Muhammad Ali said it's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. Once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. You know, I mean, did Muhammad Ali not spend most of his career saying, I am the greatest? Yeah. I mean, you know, eventually, you know, obviously he had some talent to back it up, right? But at the end of the day, that's, you know, that's what happened, because he just told the world over and over and over again, and that's what he became. I'm one of those strange authors who puts his own quotes sometimes in the start of the book and in the start of a chapter. But I felt this was important because this was a thing I was going through. Design your life, rise above the mediocrity and become the greatest version of you. You know, what do you think about that, Charlotte? Is that resonating with you?
It does. Like the design for life, design for living idea is certainly one that really hits my heart, because I think I had, similar to you, Mark, I mean, I had a sort of, in my early years, very much a party lifestyle, hedonism all the way, and that worked until it didn't, basically. So I got the opportunity age 30 to start again, and essentially that was the message to me at that point, is you can design your life the way you want it to be. My thinking was quite limited at the time, so I kind of was caught up in all of those, oh, but it's such and such fault, or this has happened, or why hasn't that happened, blah, blah, blah. But slowly, through a process of kind of really examining that, and the quote from Kevin in your chapter about becoming the observer of your own thoughts, I really did start to see you can actually detach. You aren't your thoughts, you know, and you can detach from that and then create a new reality that's so much better. And now I've got the power of evidence, because I'm 44 now, so I've got 14 years of practicing this new way, and it does get better and better and better. So I absolutely love that whole idea of being a designer. And I kind of see it as like co-creation, because I absolutely have a key role to play in designing my own life, but I cannot do it without all of you lot, cannot do it on my own. I think there's such an energy that comes from community. So that is why I'm here, and I'm all over Life Remixed.
I love it. I mean, it's one of the things I do in the 5 days to remix your life, and it's one of the things that I coach people on, is that, you know, I get down into, you know, who are you, or what are you? And one of the final parts of that is, you know, people say, I think, therefore I am. And you say, well, hold on a minute. Can you change your mind? And they always go, yeah. And you're like, well, so if you can change your mind, who or what is you? And that's different. There's a different level. Then people just like, whoa. And they, you know, but it's great because it opens up this whole conversation about, well, hang on a minute, you've been given a mind, you've been given a body. Are you using it to the very best, or are you allowing yourself to be influenced by outside influences and all this other stuff? So it's fascinating, when you start to get into it. But yeah, absolutely. You can change your mind. And also as well, you've got wonderful evidence. You've got your beautiful daughter. You've got evidence that, what you think about is what you bring about, right? So that really is powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, and that, just very quickly on that, that was a long process with, the kind of conception and bringing Natalie here. We went through an IVF process that took a long time. But the strange thing with that is, even though that was a really, really difficult time, I just always had that belief. I always had that belief that I just had to keep showing up. And that then saw me through the difficult moments. And I even drew it, like I drew characters and drew images of myself with kind of cartoon Natalie there. And, then she came. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre stuff.
One of the things I say in chapter 6 is that, we were taught very, very much by our parents that seeing is believing, or certainly I was, seeing is believing. And bless, that's just the mindset that some people have. And yet, it's actually the opposite way around. It's believing is seeing. When you believe something, then it will tend to turn up in your life. I'm sure, Lewis, you've got experience of that kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, very much. So I just want to go back to, just so we don't get ahead of ourselves. I was watching, funnily enough, as we were talking about before, a Netflix program earlier on, and there's a guy who got divorced, and he's talking to a much younger girlfriend, and he says, "Look at that bartender, looks just like Dennis Rodman." And she goes, "Who?" and so when we talk about Muhammad Ali, for all the people who may not even know who he is, there's a fantastic YouTube video of him and Michael Parkinson. For those people go, "Who's Muhammad Ali?" So sorry, Mark. So
No, that's great. Look, you're right. To me, I know who all these people are, obviously, because I've quoted them, but there'll be younger people, particularly out there, that won't necessarily have a clue. He was a heavyweight champion of the world and one of the most talented boxers that ever lived. And had his own challenges, of course, towards the end of his own life as well. But yeah, look, let's keep going, because there's quite a few quotes here at the start. I love this one. "Let us not look back in anger or forward in fear, but around us in awareness." How many people do you know that look back in anger a lot of times in their life, or forward in fear? Like they're worrying about what's going to happen in the future, or they're looking back angrily at something that happened that they just don't need to carry around with themselves anymore. And what they do is they miss the present moment, and the present moment is full of opportunities. And much of my coaching with Life Remixed is look around yourself and find these opportunities, because they're all there. You've just got to stop getting in your own way almost, So I think that's really important. See things as you would have them be instead of as they are. I think that's another quote that actually leads nicely into one of the remix opportunities at the end, which I've actually written at the end of the chapter. Is called "Fake It Till You Make It." But I've changed that. On a later version, I'm going to be changing this. So it doesn't say "fake it till you make it," but it says "faith it till you make it." Because I think that's more, so I'm going to change that, because at the end of the day, Lewis, with Equilibria, you had to have faith, didn't you? You had to have faith in the opportunity and the way it was going to open up after your collapse and everything else. You had no special reason to think that how this was going to work, but you just decided it was going to work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm sitting about 10 yards away from the back garden where we are here in Spain. I wanted to leave the company I was working with. The president had told me, "You're going to leave about $5 million on the table if you leave now. Just stay a couple more years." I said, "I can't. I have to go now. We have to start this company." And I said to my wife, who's predominantly blue-green, so she's not what you'd call a risk taker. She's very, very careful, very, very thoughtful, doesn't make snap decisions. I said, "I want to leave and start a company." And she said, "Will you be happy?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Will we have to live under a bridge?" I said, "I don't think so." And the way we went, haven't looked back.
You've absolutely got to love that as well. I heard I think it was Barry Fry at Peterborough United on some football documentary, and his wife turned around to him and said, "Listen, you go for it. We're going to make this happen. If we have to, I'll live in a tent with you." And I just thought, what a brilliant thing to say. And your wife just checking, well, we have to live under a bridge. No, we want, okay, fine, let's keep going. But that's positive, isn't it? That's supportive. That's a supportive environment. So I've got a few more things that are coming up here. It's Mrs. Wilkes, by the way. I don't know why she's not showing up, but really interested to know how Lewis resonates with chapter 6 of Life Remixed and his own collapse, of course. Marcus is saying, hi, Mark, Charlotte, Lewis. I may actually get your book, Lewis. Sounds great listening back after reading Life Remixed and come on, Chelsea. Thanks, Marcus. Love that. And Dave says, I absolutely love this book for so many reasons. The hardest part is usually owning up to our mistakes and taking responsibility to clean up the mess. This is so very true. The extension of this idea revolves around your self-talk or our self-talk. What you say to yourself matters so very, very much. Absolutely. Absolutely. Be kind to yourself, right? Is the absolutely the positive thing. And the last quote, obviously, that I lead on this chapter: when you are joyful, when you say yes to life, you have fun and project positivity all around you. You become a sun in the center of every constellation, and people want to be near you. I mean, that's beautiful. And actually, Charlotte, you gave me some feedback after the first e-color session that I held back in January. And one of the things you wrote was that your huge yellow personality shone like a sun over the whole session. And I was really grateful to that. And I'll never forget that. It was really, really lovely. So, it was beautiful for me to hear that. So thank you for that. So chapter 6, basically, there's a lot of stories that we tell ourselves, isn't there? There's a lot of stories why we can't do this or we can't do that, or, is that the right thing? I used to carry loads of stories about my childhood, about, my mum used to say this, or my dad died when I was young, or all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of stories there, and a lot of people carry them around for a long time. Charlotte, I mean, what do you think? Is that something that resonates with you?
Oh, massively. I mean, for me, the thing on the feelings, the kind of feelings we bring to the world, like I have a slightly alternative view in that I don't think any one feeling is problematic. For me, it's like totally appropriate that when my dad died, I had a period of feeling intense sadness. I think the problem starts when we start either holding on to those feelings as an identity. So the sadness gets so locked in that we can't get through it. Or yes, indeed, we create stories about why our feelings are there. So I'm sad because such and such did this to me. And that's something, ultimately we have no power over. We have no power to change. For me, like, feelings are, all of them, part of the human experience. And, so for example, even with anger, right? Even with anger, if I saw somebody hitting, an old lady, I'd need anger in that moment to motivate me to help her, to sort of intervene and take action. But, it wouldn't serve anyone for me to be replaying that anger for days, weeks, months. And I think you say it somewhere in this chapter around any feeling that's held onto for a long time, it will manifest into those results. And I absolutely concur with that. So we have to process, we have to feel our feelings, move through them, and go towards what we want. So that's what I really feel about it. No, we need not be afraid of any particular feeling, but the minute we hold on to them, it becomes resentment. We're re-feeling, the root of that word is re-feeling. So
there's a really interesting thing there with a lot of psychology. It's about mad, bad, sad, or glad, and we've got all four of these things that are going on at any one time. And it's about tuning into it. And that resentment bit you mentioned as well, certainly with Louise Hay's book around the possible emotional reasons behind dis-ease in the body. Well, if I read about rheumatoid arthritis, her quote on that, on the potential emotional reason for the dis-ease is lack of love, chronic bitterness, anger, and resentment. And I felt all of those things. I literally read that and I was like, oh my God, I feel all of these things. And then I've got this dis-ease in my body. And I was by now I was having light bulb moments left, right, and centre. But obviously you're studying a therapy course as well, right, Charlotte?
Yes, yeah, I'm training to be a therapist alongside finally getting on with my books. And that's because human psychology, human beings fascinate me. I mean, in terms of the E colours, I'm blue, yellow, and then pretty much similar degrees of red, but the blue yellow side of me is all about the people. So blue, I absolutely relate to and connect with people who show me their feelings and they let me in that way. And yellow, you know, just tell me a great story and I'm yours, basically. I'll be hooked. So yeah, I mean, the training in therapy for me is about mastery of emotions. I want to be able to sit with anyone, you know, whether that's somebody who's just lost a partner or is going through hell, and I want to be able to hold the space with them in the present moment in those feelings, so that it doesn't become, you know, something that they dwell upon. Your point about any feeling that is taking us into the past, and that's sadness or regret or whatever, or the future, we're worried and in fear, that's what's problematic for me. But feeling our feelings in the present moment, actually they come and go quite quickly. You know, with my dad, like when he died, I would have these intense moments of sadness for about 5 minutes, but then fully allowing that and moving through it, I always accessed the most amazing joy for his life, because I wasn't frightened of it. And I want to be able to do that for other people, because I think it's the fear of our feelings that then makes them into something that we make bigger, you know, and we can't then access the joy. You know, the joy is so amazing if you just aren't afraid, I think. So
exactly right. I mean, I heard that fear will stop you faster than a speeding bullet. And I think that's very true. You know, we can't let the fear win, you know, because the fear is made up. You know, you can choose to have faith or fear at any moment, you know, and it's all either is something that you're choosing to believe. You're either choosing to believe the fear or choosing to have faith that actually it's all going to work out fine. And I mean, Lewis, you know, stories we tell ourselves, I think about when I read At the End of the Day. I mean, you were smoking how many cigarettes a day and drinking, like, I don't know, a litre of Coca-Cola a day and 20 coffees, and you were wired.
All stimulating a stimulated brain. I just want to go back to something that Charlotte just said, though. Yeah. Just find it interesting, actually. So I have quite a few people I'm coaching who are predominantly blue-yellow, not unlike Charlotte. And they will tell me they can assign emotions to things that don't deserve to have an emotion assigned to them. Is that true, Charlotte?
I am all about the feelings, Lewis. I love it. I love feeling. So I guess I look for it. I look for it in situations and people. And, you know, I am a proper blubber at films, you know, and at books and everything. You know, I just really do go there, definitely.
Which again, you know, from as you're beginning to experience, Mark, from an e-colors perspective, people who are predominantly red, green, green, red, they're not really into the whole feeling thing at all, right? So and they will say, why are you getting emotional about that? It's just a fact, or it's a data point, or, you know, it's another piece of information. So understanding that side of it, so well, I think it's quite interesting, actually. Something to explore a little bit.
I end up crying at movies, and you know, I get caught up and I'm crying at the end of a movie, like and Emma's green. Emma's like very largely green, like hardly any yellow at all. And she just sits there. She like rolls her eyes at me, like she's like, "Are you gone, Wilkes?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've gone."
I'm the same. My daughter will not sit with me on the plane if we fly to the States together. I put a cartoon comes on, I'm crying my eyes. Actually, he's not with me. He's not with me.
The world needs people like us too, Lewis. Yeah?
I hope.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I hope they do. I really do.
They do. No, of course they do. I've got a few more quotes here. Someone said, I've often heard face it till you make it as another alternative, so that's good. Dave Valentine very honestly has said, I'm loving this. I've been struggling for a few weeks and feel like she's giving me a bit of a reboot. Dave, you know where we are, mate, and we're here to love and support you 100%, mate. And Jason's saying exactly the same. Look at that. So Dave and Jason, very honest and very lovely guys. All power to you both, because you know, there's a lot of great things that we're talking about and we're going to continue to talk about. And we just want to, you know, I've heard this before. Repetition is mastery. Repetition is mastery. The more you study, I've been studying e-colors for 10 years. I've been studying myself for 17 years, you know, and the more I do it, the better I get at it, you know, and then the more I can share with other people. So you can't give what you haven't got. So fill yourself up first with all the information and then share it with other people. And, you know, your success depends upon it. I know Dave and Jason, thanks for sharing, but you two, I know, are very much on your journey, and all power to you guys as well. So Lewis, stories we tell ourselves, if we go back to that, you definitely had a story. I mean, you were telling yourself that you couldn't run. I mean, you were at the time, you were the head of health and safety of the largest drilling company in the world.
Yeah, the largest drilling contractor in the world by night, and by day we were doing sessions around the world. We brought a load of companies together, and my job was to go around the world with a lot of other people and explain to the workforce, this is all a great idea and it's all going to work. And just basically exhausted myself, like you say. I was smoking like a chimney, drinking black coffee till it came out my ears, eating every Toblerone bar in the fridge in any hotel I was staying in the world, and just really didn't do me much good. And I just want to go back to something that I'd not in the book, but Charlotte mentioned it. And for those of you who read my book, when I jumped out the bath and before I started running down the corridor, I actually looked in the bathroom mirror and my father was looking at me. That's not in the book, but it was clear as day. He was dead by then. So pretty interesting the way it worked out.
So I've got a question from Alan. He says, this could be quite a long answer. I might need to speak to Alan about this separately. He says, can I ask what the colour thing comes from, mate? So obviously he's talking about e-colours. Is this what they call insights in a business sense? So now, of course, now Equilibria came from health and safety. Your biggest client has been Chevron over the years, right? And Chevron are one of the most productive and safest companies to work for, I believe.
They are actually the safest oil company in the world, yeah.
In the energy, so that's official. They're the safest oil company in the world.
Yeah,
the induction process is get the company induction and then know your e-colours. Yeah. So that's powerful. Alan, I will come back to you on that, mate, because I think you should come on the next e-colour session, Alan. I think you'd absolutely love it. I mean, Charlotte would say as well. You've been twice on, haven't you, Charlotte?
I've done too. Yeah, it's so good.
And come back.
What my experience of e-colours is, it's so accessible. I've done quite a few of these different types of. I know it's not a test. It's not a test. It's a personality diversity indicator, right? So, and I've experienced different methodologies that have, to be honest, they've left me confused because the output you get is just not actionable. It's not something I can work with and take forward and really absorb and understand. But e-colours is so different. It's like this lovely doorway opens and there's great depth to it. I'm only scratching the surface of what I've learned through the e-colours process. It's a very humanizing and connecting experience. So jump on a session. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Anker MBE has just endorsed us as well, which is amazing for what we're doing here in the UK. So we're going to be publicising that around all the construction companies because everyone knows Jason in the construction world. So Jason's a fascinating guy. He's endorsed myself, Emma, e-colours, Lewis, the whole thing. So that's exciting. And we're looking forward to putting this message out into the world a lot more. We've all got these stories we tell ourselves, and Caroline's just jumped in and said I unexpectedly ended up in hospital recently and repeating your positive affirmations kept my spirits up and motivated to get me moving and get me home. So big love, Caroline. That's amazing. The bottom line is that we can all go through challenges. Lewis's challenge, Charlotte's challenge clearly was obviously your father passing is something that's still there with your blogs. Lewis's challenge was, a breakdown essentially, wasn't it? From just too much work, too much sugar, definitely. But certainly like an overpowering kind of like breakdown of everything. Mine was a physical breakdown when I collapsed. And if I use Jason Anker's story, he fell off a ladder at 24 and never walked again. We've all got something. We've all got some kind of thing that has challenged us. But by challenging us, it's actually made us stronger. And I think that that's a powerful thing. But overcoming those stories that we tell ourselves, letting those stories go, forgiveness means actually to let go of completely. And it's one of the things I had to do. I worked quickly with that. I was like, right, forgive everyone, everything. Right, let's go. Because if I forgive everyone, everything, all of a sudden my mind is clear. And then I can start to be creative. Creativity comes from living in the positive emotions. But to get to those positive emotions, I go through forgiveness, acceptance of everything that's going on, and then gratitude. And we'll talk about all of those, of course, as we go through. One of the things I learned as well, and I've put it in this chapter, my brother always laughs about it, is that there's an Apple Plus TV show called Ted Lasso. He's a football coach. Have you seen it, Lewis?
No.
All right. So you must watch this. Being a coach as you are, you need to watch this Ted Lasso series. He's a football coach, but basically he's not. He's like a Buddhist, he's like this amazing coach. but he talks about what's the happiest animal on the planet. And this guy's just had a crunching tackle. He's getting ready to get up, and he's getting ready to get revenge on this guy who's giving him a crunching tackle. And he's going to go flying back into him. And the coach stops him. Ted stops him and says, "Come over here." And he talks to him. He says, "What's the happiest animal on the planet?" And the kid's like, "What? I'm just about to crunch this guy. Like, what? You know what?" And he said, "No, tell me the happiest animal on the planet." He's like, "I don't know, coach." He goes, "A goldfish." And by now the kid's going like, "What?" And he's like, "A goldfish. Do you want to know why?" He's like, "Yep." He goes, 10-second memory. Now, if you imagine, both of you on this call and everyone watching everything, if you imagine yourself with a 10-second memory, like you can't remember how I started that sentence, right? But imagine how happy you'd be. You'd be so happy, wouldn't you? Because happiness is a natural state. And if you're not carrying lots of memories and negatives around with you or fears and worries and stuff like that, you'd be in this real happy little space. And I think that's what I teach and what I work with, because that's where the happiness lies. And that's where the creativity lies, and that's how you can write a book and do all the things that you would like to do. So so that's great stuff. I mean, one of the things I love about your story, Lewis, as well, is that I read in your book at the end of the day is when you go back into, I assume you're going back into Chevron, or is it Transocean? I'm not sure. Anyway, one of the companies, and you go back in there and you've had this moment, and it's kind of like everyone's thinking you're bonkers. And your boss actually sits you down, or one of the directors sits you down and says to you, one of the most forward-thinking guys ever, I think, actually says to you, "Listen, Lewis, don't worry about it. Shit happens, basically. But who better than you to understand the pressures that people are under, and who better than you being a corporate coach within the organisation?" I mean, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it happened. I came back to Houston after I'd gone down in Po, and just for those that don't read the book, I woke up in a mental hospital in France because they knew I hadn't had a heart attack, which I thought I had, with my wife standing at the end of the bed telling me in Spanish, well, in English, I'll translate it for you: "Get up, you idiot. There's nothing wrong with you. You just needed some rest." So I had a few days at home, actually had an operation for stroke, then went back to the States with the intention of quitting, as you say, Mark. And Walter Cabuccio, God bless him, he turned around to me and said exactly what you're saying. And Mark, can I tell a quick little story about the letting go of blame?
Yeah.
So I did eventually decide that I was going to leave Transocean. We were going to start Equilibrium. This is in the book. And the chairman, the CEO actually, who I had been avoiding like the plague since I came back to Houston, because in my head at that time, I was still blaming probably the senior management for running me ragged around the world. I still hadn't got to the point where it was actually realized it was my fault. So it got closer and closer and closer to me leaving. And every day I was going out for lunch with this one and that one. And the CEO secretary kept calling me, "Lewis, the CEO wants to take you out for lunch." So I waited till literally the day before I was actually leaving the company. And I went up to the fourth floor where all the execs were. And I went in and he said, "Oh, Lewis, come on, I'll take you out for lunch." So we get in the elevator. I don't say a word. I'm still kind of mad at him in my own mind. And he says, "You're very quiet. It's not like you." I said, "Well, I've changed a little bit since you last saw me." We get in the car and we go to this restaurant. I still haven't had a word. And then the salad arrives. And I'm thinking, I'm going to wait till I get to that piece of lettuce. And as soon as I've eaten that one, I'm going to just lay into it and tell him exactly what I think of him. And it's still, to that moment, it was all in my head. I was blaming him for everything that happened. And I actually got the lettuce and I went, "Mike, I just want to tell you, you gave me the best opportunity of my entire life. And now we're going to start Equilibrium. And I will appreciate that forever." And it was like, that was the watershed moment. After that, it flipped the whole thing. But that's how I had to get to before it actually came out.
It goes to show you, though, sometimes you have to go through this. One of my favorite films, I say this a lot, is The Shawshank Redemption. And sometimes you have to swim through the river of shit, metaphorically, to come out the other side and actually then be like free and actually and I love the fact you say about never having an argument. I don't, what's the point? I have plenty of arguments as a DJ and a record producer in the music world because, I was all over the shop. I don't have any arguments anymore. What's the point? Everyone's entitled to their opinion and we could all work together. And I only work with people I choose to work with, I don't work with people that are resisting me. I work with people that we can grow together with, and that's really, really important. So, I don't know what you think about this quote. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. Charlotte, what do you think about that one?
Always. That has always worked in my life. And within seconds, minutes, days, kind of very short spaces of time, that readiness for me, the word I'd use is surrender. So it's the surrender of the false story, like Lewis just described. It drops away. And then something for me, I'm not religious, but something for me spiritual does happen at that point of the dropping away of the ego. And it could have been something that was there all along and I haven't been able to see, or some quite extraordinary moments of, brand new people arriving in my life at that moment. Always is the answer to that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, and my younger self, my ego was pretty rampant, and I thought I knew everything, I'm the greatest, and all that kind of stuff. And it took the breakdown of my masculine ego at that moment to be kind of like, well, you got no money, you got no career, you got no nothing, you're just signing on the dole, you're living in your mum's spare room, scratching your head, going like, what, And that was when I discovered, all the stuff, all the Bob Proctor and all Tony Robbins and everything else, and Lewis and e-colors. And it was a really important part of my development, actually, by doing the e-colors and actually looking at it and going, it's okay to be me. I was yellow blue and heavily yellow blue. I've just tipped us 1% to yellow red, but I'm basically yellow red blue in the e-colors. But I'm, it's okay to be me. It's great. It's absolutely great. I'm comfortable with it. And it's okay for every one of you guys watching to be you. Don't let anyone tell you any different. You have a personality, you have an offering, you're unique. Say hi to Dave Jarvis as well. Dave's just watching us as well. You're utterly unique. Celebrate your uniqueness. And if you need a teacher or you need a coach to help you celebrate your uniqueness, then my goodness, go and get one, go and get one. Because I don't know about how you feel about this. You must have had lots of mentors and people in your life over the years. But for me, I found a coach in every single area. A coach gets me there quicker.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
You needed the light on there, Charlotte. It was getting a bit dark.
I'm just so absorbed in your conversation. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, this is just the face. That's all I can see. Lewis, so coaches and mentors and people that have inspired you, right? They get you there quicker, don't they?
But very, very much so. And again, to me, I think there's a lovely difference between coach and mentor. So, mentor is somebody who'll teach you everything they know, that, from the Greek history. The coach is something that'll get you from where you are, from where you want to be. And I think one of the things is it's different for different times of your life with different people. It's an ongoing process. And we need to be open through that throughout our entire lives. And the only other thing I would add to it is, and it's something I encourage all of our clients, I'm a great believer in having upward mentors. So I've got an 11-year-old who is my youngest upward mentor. And she sees the world through completely different lens, and obviously that I do. And I think that's something that, in terms of coaching, I think that's a fantastic element of it as well, actually, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, for me, coaching got me to let go of the stories. I think therapy helped me with a little bit of that to start with. And then coaching really got me to let go of all the stories. Stop believing all those stories you're telling yourself, wherever they come from, when they come from belief systems, wherever the belief systems come from, where they've come from my parents and society and friends at school and TV and everything else, just let go of all of that, belief systems, basically BS, right? Let go of all of that BS and actually sort of unlearn all that stuff and start relearning new things. And I certainly think that, me doing my personality diversity indicator was a big moment for me, definitely. And that's why you and I are still in touch today, and you've written part of the foreword to my book, mate. So, all power to you. I really believe in what you do. And I know likewise, you believe in what I do. But what I would say is that whole student versus student being ready, there's no point in trying to teach someone who's not ready. I mean, running a coaching company for 17 years, as you have, all over the world with multiple clients, there's always some resistance, isn't there? With certain clients, certain people, there's always a bit of resistance, right?
Yeah, well, I was talking to one of our coaches yesterday. He said, have you ever been called an external irritant? So, and again, not everybody, you know, well, you, again, Mark, you already heard this. I think it's in the book as well. But my daughter and I were in Las Palmas, actually, many years ago. And she came over to me. One particular person just wasn't buying in at all to what we were talking about. And she says, I know our vision is realizing potential, but there's a guy over there who has no potential to realize. I said, well, maybe it's just not his day. You know, it's not everybody wants to, you know, wants to realize potential the moment we want them to do it. So, and that's the other side of it. But you're absolutely right, Mark. There is no point in trying to coach somebody who doesn't want to be coached. You're just banging your head against the wall.
And on that note, I hope this is true.
Oh, no. I mean, great. Oh, my Real Madrid friends here going,
I'm glad that Graham is watching us with the volume down, and so we're bringing some joy to Graham. He's in India, that's great, and I hope he's right. I hope he's not winding me up. I hope he's right. Anyway, yeah. So for me, it took rock bottom to become coachable, because up until that point, I thought I knew it all, right? And many teenagers and younger people may go through that particular way, but what I'm finding more and more as I go through the law of attraction is I'm finding the newer generation coming through are actually a lot more open-minded and a lot more coachable and open-minded than we ever were, you know. And so, you know, I love that, and I love seeing younger people grasp what we're doing. I know, obviously, we've got the, you know, we're talking to the Westminster Council and all kinds of people about bringing Life Remixed and e-colours into their schools and their youth clubs and all that kind of stuff, because we believe that it can benefit everybody. I mean, you've got some great stories about addiction centres, haven't you, and stuff like that, where you've helped people in the States, Lewis.
Yeah, we got the privilege. Actually, unbeknown to me, we were working in schools where they actually had the education contract for the rehabilitation centres around Texas, and thank God we were invited one Saturday afternoon. I can remember it like it was yesterday. We got to a break with some young ladies, probably about 15, 16 years old. 3 of them stayed behind while we went on a break, and they said, oh, we just want to tell you thank you. And I said, what for? They said, well, you know, we've got our bracelets. We've got our personal intervention bracelets like I've got here. And I said, so, you know, well, how did you use it? Oh, we were going to commit suicide last Saturday and decided to press our pause button. And up until that moment, you know, it had never really finally landed with me the beauty of, yes, understanding your e-colors and your personality, but actually being able to do something about it. And I, you know, I posted on your Facebook page the other day, Mark, only last week, a yellow-red guy with lots and lots of experience. He said to me, Lewis, he said, I know I have the right to remain silent. I just don't have the ability, or I didn't have the ability until I learned pause and play. And this is a 55, 60-year-old guy. So it's never too late.
Well, Jason Anker, MBE, said to me just the other day that he normally got his top colour, he's yellow-blue. He tends to just walk into meetings and just blather on for ages until, you know, or if there's a gap, he's waiting, or if there's a conversation going on, he's waiting for the gap so he can get his bit in, you know, and stuff like that. And him and I are laughing at each other because we both do it, you know. He starts a meeting at the top of he's taken my habit now of writing notes, because if I write the notes, then I can come back to, I don't have to interrupt you. I can come back to my notes later and go, oh yeah, that was the point I wanted to make, and I can make it in due course. And I haven't cut you off or interrupted you or anything like that, and allowed you to have your say. But he's done the same thing now. And at the top of every page, he's just written in massive letters, pause. And I love that, because he's an MBE, you know what I mean? He's like he's been through hell and back with his own story of, you know, paralysis to success. And yet we still shared something with him that he's got into as well. And I mean, he's loved the whole Life Remixed experience, and he's even got a nightclub in his garage at home for about 50 people, and he's invited me up there to DJ and play a set. So you know, listen, the law of attraction, the way things all work together, is really, really amazing. So yeah, as far as you know, those sort of positive emotions, I mean, Charlotte, you know, how are you finding moving more into those positive emotions? Are you finding a more creative way about yourself now? Do you feel that you're making momentum now all of your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think because defining my purpose here, and I know that's going to be your next chapter in the book, but that has been key to everything. So knowing that I'm all about these 4 feelings: courage, hope, love, and joy. And that for me adds up to kind of claiming your star-like existence. And actually it was defining that purpose that then helped me name the company. And then the company's mission is to inspire those feelings. So my mantras, therefore, have to be around that. They're around, I am so happy and grateful that I'm courageous. I'm so happy and grateful that I'm hopeful, loving, joyful, etc. And I will admit, it's one of the things I find quite hard to practice. I don't know why. It feels, it feels like there is still some resistance in me, if I'm completely honest. But I think it is just like that thing, like you say, repetition is absolutely mastery, both in a spiritual sense for me, but also just understand the brain. And the more you do the same thing, the more neuroplasticity it will change. It will form a new pathway that will reinforce, and then it will feel more effortless. So it's like, I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I think there's some way to go for it to go from my head to the heart and just be like brushing my teeth. But absolutely, I'm practicing, and that's thanks to, obviously the early sessions of coaching with you and just seeing others, seeing others doing it, and it's working. We, as we met in Thailand for a few brief moments. I was traveling the world at that point and our paths crossed. And I remember you saying it. I remember you saying in Phuket about writing a book, and then obviously you've manifested amazing things. You've got a great, happy marriage, your homes, your businesses, etc. And I kind of watched these threads on social media thinking, what is he doing? I want some of that. And, to be honest, if I just need to practice it a bit more and admit my challenges around it, it's not the easiest thing for me to affirm myself like that, but I am willing to give it a go. I can totally believe that it's the right strategy.
Well, you are completely unique. There's no one like you out of 6 billion people on the planet. You are, there's not another Charlotte. There's not another person who looks like you, sounds like you, thinks like you, and as long as you can tap into your creativity, which is what you're doing, by the way, and it's wonderful to watch and wonderful to see. And also interesting that you've observed me from a distance and actually observe, well, what's going on there? I want to know more about that. I love that, because at the end of the day, I've just been living my life. By the way, Lewis, your title at the end of the day, what a great title for a book, because I say it about 8 times a day without even meaning to. So well done. But yeah, so, I have been following, these strategies and these things for myself and putting them all into practice. Now, one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich, which I quote a few times, Napoleon Hill's book, written 120 years ago or whatever. And but it rarely talks about money. And I mentioned that in this chapter. It rarely talks about money, which in itself is fascinating, isn't it? Because, a book, you think, well, Think and Grow Rich, well, that's about money, right? But what I take it for is it's about inner wealth. It's actually about once you've got inner wealth and you're in touch with your, spirit, your soul, your energy, your positive emotions, you understand you've been given a mind, you've been given a body, and then you can actually start to influence it and use the law of attraction to actually then plot your way forward through life, so that you no longer have these crazy challenges that you might have had when you were younger, the party lifestyle and everything else. And when you actually do that, you actually get to this little sort of utopia. And I heard someone else say it recently on an interview that I was on. They were interviewing me, and he said, well, I live in heaven on earth. And I was like, top man. I was like, what a great place to live. It's not religious. It's just how I feel. I just feel like heavenly. And those 7 positive emotions that are the ones that are identified by the 500 millionaires in Think and Grow Rich, which he studied for 25 years, Napoleon Hill did. They are desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope. And I remember talking about those things when I was in the depths of despair, and we're still talking about as we're coming out of Life Remixed. I was in the depths of despair, and someone said, just imagine your life if you could live in desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope in all areas. Just imagine how great it would be. And I was like, yeah, I want some of that. That sounds perfect. there's the negative emotions, and the major 7 that he identifies are jealousy, anger, greed, fear, hatred, revenge, and superstition. And all of those things, if you have any of those in your subconscious, let alone your conscious mind, they can drag you down. And Lewis, I would say probably from your experience as a younger man, chasing money and chasing around the world and partially thinking you were probably living the dream for a while there and earning lots of money and doing your thing. But there might have been some of those negatives that might have, crept in that caused you to overwork, should we say?
Actually, for me, it was just this over desire to help people. I never saw it as more than that. And I think, and again, as you mentioned before about the coaching, lots of times the challenge comes when you want to help people and they don't want your help. So that in itself creates some challenges for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I think this is from a friend of mine. Mandy says, I'm on page 151. I've written my plan and I can't put your book down. That's beautiful. Thank you, Mandy. I love that. And thanks for commenting. And just out of interest as well, I've got 53 reviews so far on Amazon. I need 100. Lewis, I think you could put one on there, to be honest. So that would be good. But I need that 100 because that will get us noticed by more books and more things, and it will actually uplift us. So that's why I'm going with it. This is quite interesting, actually, Lewis, and I would like you to answer this question if you don't mind, because I know the ethics behind e-colours and equilibrium, why you do it, and what you've done. This is interesting. Someone says, this is Graham in India, the Chelsea fan, who says he's definitely not winding me up because he's a Chelsea supporter too. He says, I've never been too sure about personality profiling, have been resistant to it for some reason, but hearing all of your experience of e-colours is making me change my mind and wanting to give it a go. I'm sure you hear this kind of stuff, semi-regularly, Lewis. What's your take on that, you think, with the ethics behind e-colours and what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I understand why people would feel that. And actually, there's another program just come out on Amazon Prime where they really are talking about some of the other systems around personality, the discovery of personality, which is not all positive at all. When we started Equilibria, my main driver was to help people stay safe in a very dangerous industry like the oil business. And by being able to understand people's personality, we very quickly were able to reduce the amount of incidents. So top and bottom, and we were coming from it from a different perspective. When we first started with our first anchor client, it became very clear very quickly that we needed to co-create, which we did, a set of ethics. Because, a lot of people, when they first discover their e-colors, in our case, they would immediately go around and tell everybody else what they were, without giving people the chance to discover it for themselves. Some e-colors, particularly, some e-colors are much more likely to use it as a kind of shield. So I'm a this, deal with it, that kind of thing. So we set up a very solid set of ethics, which have really stood the test of time, actually. And I would also say, you've heard me say this before, Mark, but 20 years ago, they used to call it Lewis's warm and fuzzy stuff. I don't hear that anymore. I think people begin to realize that having a process in place to understand yourself, your others, your team members, your family members, makes a huge impact on people's lives. And I want to go back to something you said before about, all the things who make you who you are today. I know, Mark, that you're definitely sharing with your clients the premium report. One of the things I'm really glad we did in that was not only talking about the personality, but also about character. And when people start to describe what parts of your character, kind of help determine the behaviors that you're coming up with today, I think that's a bit of a groundbreaker for people, where they do marry a lot of what happened to them in the past, which is where your character comes from.
Because that brings in a lot of nature versus nurture.
Yes.
And obviously nature, I've got to get this right, nature is the personality. And nurture is your character. Yeah. Your character is a lot deeper than, say, your personality. So, and the other thing I think is very important to say to people is that it's not to be used in an HR perspective, as in I will hire someone who is this color. I want them to do that. That's not, and that's the way that some previous personality diversity indicators have been used, and that's what I believe that documentary is about, without having seen it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But you know, it's not about doing that in an HR perspective. It's actually about employing someone because you think they're excellent at what they do, and then finding out their personality and the way they process information, isn't it?
Yeah, and then how they like to be communicated with. Absolutely.
Exactly right. And that's the ethical perspective.
Yeah.
That's, you know, you wouldn't have got involved in it for any other reason. I wouldn't have got involved in it for any other reason. You know, it's about bringing, like you said, realizing potential and bringing the best out of people. So, you know, the ethics behind it really stand up, which I'm very grateful to be involved with, because I think it's a brilliant tool and there's a lot of experience. And we're going to do 2 more sessions before the summer break. So we're going to do one on Friday, the 21st of May, and one on Saturday, the 26th of June. So we've got those 2 in the diary. I've got another 5 days to remix your life on May the 10th, which you're all very welcome to come and join that. It's completely free, 8 till 9 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday. And as of tomorrow, we're doing a Kindle giveaway as well. So if you want the life remixed on your Kindle, please do, you know, tell your friends and share it and let people know that, because I want to try and give away 5,000 if I can. I think I can do it. I've just got to let a lot of people know about it. So, but, you know, we want to help more people with Life Remixed, and eColours is a part of how I start my coaching with people as well. So thank you, Lewis, for all of that. It's amazing. So as we go through the chapter, it's about being proactive, isn't it? It's about being proactive and making the changes, but also, you know, I love the fact, you know, Charlotte, you're one of the quickest people to actually name your purpose, you know, and that's a great thing. You know, many people don't do it, but you've just taken my inspiration, I guess, with Joy, Knowledge, Inspire, Create, which are mine, and you've just taken your 4 words and gone, it doesn't have to be 4 words. It could be 1 word. It could be 20 words, right? But you've taken that and you've run with it, and you've actually, you know, everything you're creating is on purpose, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, you know, building what you said about when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It was all very fast. So I believe I was in a state of readiness at the time, but something was holding me back, and it was an invisible thing going on. And then I can't even remember how it happened now, but I remember the phone call, because I was in Tesco car park and I was on the phone to you and kind of chatting away. And then by the end of the call, I said, look, how do I get you to be my coach? And you said, well, do you want to do this? And I said, yes, please. And it was really as simple as that. And then I think you sent me some stuff. And then by the first session, I said, okay, I can answer that and I can define a purpose. So it goes back to this idea of co-creation. You know, for me, it's just such a powerful thing and to be honest, if it's good enough for the Richard Bransons and the top business people as well to have multiple coaches, you know, and say that that's how they have thrived, then it's really good. It's definitely good enough for me. And I do have mentors in different areas of my life, and nutrition and other kind of health related matters, you know, so why not in this area that I'm just, you know, I've just got this burning desire to share it with the world, but for some reason by myself, you know, it just feels unmanifestable or whatever. But with,
you got there eventually, but in your own time. And I think that's what a coach just gets you there quicker. You know, like one of my favorite ones is find someone who's living the way you would like to live and just copy them. You know, there's no big secret here, but it's just about making sure that you take those actionable steps. And that's, so if we start with purpose, which you've beautifully identified, then we get into vision. And you have a vision. You know, I see your Instagram, you've got a vision of your brand and the way it looks and the purpose behind it and everything else. You get your purpose, then you get your vision. And for me, it was, you know, I was determined. I was like, I'm never going to be bankrupt again. You know what I mean? I'm never going to go through this incurable disease again. I'm going to sort this shit out. All right. And so for me, it was like, right, let's get sorted out. Okay. Multiple sources of income. That's the way to insure myself against the recession. Right. Okay. I'm going to do that. You know, and then, you know, take all these actionable steps, which is your goals. So you set your goals. And I know I've put some tables in here. Lewis very kindly came up with the idea of doing a Life Remixed workbook off the back of this one. So I think that's an idea we've got in our minds to do. But to do a workbook, to say, right, what are your top 5 stories? Get rid of them. You know what I mean? Just let's get past them. Let's get rid of those, move on, forgive, accept, be grateful, crack on. Then, you know, what are your purpose? Okay, let's define it. And sense of purpose will come next week, obviously, when I'm going to be on the book club again. But then, of course, you know, what's your vision? What are your goals? What are those steps? 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. And then with the 1 year goals, break them down into 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. And step by step by step by step, hit them. If you don't hit them, you'll get close. You know, you might surprise yourself. You might do it in 2 weeks rather than 3 months. But, you know, if you don't set these goals and get moving forward, you will just be like the ship or the little boat out at sea with no rudder, no destination, you're just bouncing around on the waves and just, you know, you're tossed around by life. And it's, you know, it doesn't have to be that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't really understand how it works, but I almost don't need to. I've just got to develop that faith and trust. And like you know, seeing people who have done it and are living it and are authentic, I can feel it. Like I can feel their authenticity, and I can feel that in you, and I can feel it in Lewis. So I trust that instinctively. And I think, okay, well, I don't need to understand how it all fits together. I just need to have that faith and trust. And that's the power, you know, of working with people that have that belief system really, you know, solidly in place. And I kind of do in some areas, and in other areas I still absolutely need to grow, you know, and belief in myself. You know, most of this session I've been like feeling quite nervous, and it's just like that visibility is really challenging for me in one sense, but on another sense it's like it's the thing that you have to face the biggest fear, don't you, to get to the good bit. So I am willing to do it. I'm willing to trust. I'm willing to not know all the answers and be amongst a really authentic, and you know, not only yourselves, Lewis and Mark, but all of the people, Emma, you know, everyone I've met so far in this great community, I can feel their authenticity. Like it's attracting people that have got that. They're not just in it for the money, they're actually in it for something bigger, way bigger and more powerful than that. So yeah, there you go, Bob. We love a bit of Bob.
Money is a byproduct of you doing what you would like to do, and your purpose and what you love to do. Money just comes. You know, people. I used to wind me up. People used to say money's an energy. I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't got any, and I need some. And why are you talking about? Money's an energy, man. No, it genuinely is. It's like, you know, money comes because of the positive energy that you put out into the world. And I mean, Lewis, you had no special reason to believe, like you said about possibly leaving that 5 million on the table. You had no special reason to believe that Equilibrium and E-Colors was really going to work out, did you?
No, I knew we were onto something, but I wanted to at least try it. And the wonderful thing is 3 other people left at the same time, so I didn't go it alone, and we all brought our strengths. Mark, I just want to mention something that it's a little bit offbeat here, but it's something that I found really interesting, and it goes to the thing about purpose. Yeah. What I do every day is I go for a walk, normally a couple of hours in the morning. You've probably seen some of the pictures on Facebook if you follow me down here in Spain. Yeah. And most of the times I either take my nephew's dog or I go on my own. So I don't really like Spanish TV because they all talk at the same time. It drives me crazy. So the thing I really love is a program on Radio 4 called Great Lives. And I just wanted to recommend it to all of your listeners. So the only way you can get on Great Lives is you're dead. So it's people who've had great lives, but they are sponsored by somebody who knows them or admires them for what they did, and then there's an expert comes on who knows their story. And each one is.
Can't we celebrate them before they die? Anyway,
well, the way this program works, but the reason I wanted to mention it, there's like 250 of these, a half an hour each. And it's from every single walk of life. But every one of those people had a purpose. And that's why I think it's so important to understand it. And it's everything from musicians to the people who built the sewage system in London, you know, 200 years ahead of his time, basically. So brilliant people, but they had a clear picture of what they were going to do. And against all the odds, they went after it. And that's what's key, right? Rather than let life take you along, you grab hold of it and you become the one who's in the driving seat. And to me, I think listening to different people from different perspectives just becomes very powerful.
Massively true. And I love the fact. So Great Lives. Yeah, do check that out. I mean, one of my other guys here as well, Jason, that says, Charlotte, you're lovely. And great to hear your journey so far. there you go. That's nice. Kev says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Fair play, Kev. I like that. And then Jason's got, Lewis, I'm really excited about e-colors and looking forward to your book. I hope it's on audio. That's interesting, actually, because I don't believe you've got an audio book, have you?
No, we got it on. It's on. You can get it on Kindle and everything, but not an audio book.
Okay. So that I'm recording my audio book. I'm recording Life Remixed, the audio book, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. Actually, I probably need to talk to you about that, because it'd be quite cool if you could record your forward as part of the audio book, and Danny as well, and Kevin possibly. I'm not sure. So
Consider it done.
I'll come back to you on that, but it'll be amazing if you could record in your voice, that you're part of the forward. So I know you read that on an interview as well that we did. So that would be amazing. Purpose, vision, goals. Yeah, you've got to have them. You've got to break those goals down. One of the things I think you've got to be comfortable with as well is, you are worthy and you are good enough. Many people don't think they are worthy. Many people don't think they're good enough. Many people don't think they don't deserve success, or they don't deserve money. I mean, I was talking to a coaching client this morning, and I was talking to him about how he could generate some cash and all this kind of stuff. And he sort of laughed nervously. And I was like, and I pulled him up on it a little bit. And I said, listen, that little nervous laugh about money and money coming back to you and everything else, I think you might have a bit of an issue there. And he said, yeah. Whenever anyone offers me money, I always go, no, you saw right, no. And I was like, okay, so I can understand you're being a lovely person. You're blue, yellow as well, by the way. I can understand you're being a lovely person, but you've also got to understand that you are worthy and you are deserving of that energy, that money, that exchange between people. You deserve it. You earn it. You bring it. Your value. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing, because you've got to understand that you are worthy, Charlotte, and that you are good enough, and that your books will sell millions. If you want them to sell millions, they'll sell millions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one, that, because I've got a lot of self-love and respect, and that's grown since that decision at 30, right, when I was given the opportunity to restart and say, okay, all of those rubbish stories, all of those overpowering feelings, let's move them out of the way bit by bit with great coaches and mentors in place. And I think definitely what's come from that is great joy has manifested in my personal life. But for whatever reason, I feel like it's like the frontier of kind of now becoming visible in my chosen vocations, so professions. And that's taken me until 44 to get to this point. But like it says in Think and Grow Rich, the best is yet to come. I really believe that it's never too late.
Let's ask Lewis, actually. Let's ask Lewis that. Lewis, your most effective years on the planet, 45 to 65 or 70 now, 45 to 70?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
So. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Charlotte.
And it's not over yet, by the way.
Yeah,
no, not you're just warming up. We're just warming up.
It's all unfolding, isn't it? And I think it's a limiting belief to say, okay, well, there's not enough time left, or I should have done it. All those shoulds, like, get rid of should from the vocabulary. So, but I think where I do feel a bit emotional around this, because where the worthiness comes in for me is it's like just being visible and being allowed to be successful and celebrating one's own success in a public space. That's still quite uncomfortable for me. And that's why it was such a great joy to watch you on your Life Remixed launch night. And you were celebrating your success. And I thought, I'm going to watch and learn from this, because every human being has that, right to celebrate what they're good at and what they want to share with the world, because you're coming from that place of purpose. So I think, it feels like the jigsaw is being pieced together on this. And I do have trust that the outcome's going to be good. So
I think it's enjoy the journey as well, right? I mean, enjoy the daily journey, the success. I mean, I love Lewis's in the e-colors session. We've got that mountain about climbing the mountain, where you start with doubt and resistance. You go through a couple of other stages and you end up with tolerating, and then you kind of get a little bit into acceptance. But then when you finally get to the top of the mountain, it's gratitude. And it's gratitude, it took incurable disease and bankruptcy for me to get grateful for anything and everything. You know, the day I started to be grateful to my mother for actually, you know, bringing me into the world and actually doing positive things for me, despite all the trials and tribulations, was the day that life started to change and become more beautiful. And so, you know, it's all a journey. You've got to enjoy it. Colette says, yay, I'm 44 too, Charlotte. There you go. That's nice. And one of the other things I would say as well is actually that I've got a coaching client who sort of came into my orbit mistakenly in a way. He wanted to help his son and a few other things happened. Anyway, he's come into my coaching world. He's 55. And he was like, until I met you, Mark, he said, I was kind of like, desperately hoping I might get to retirement by the time I'm 65 and maybe hit a few golf balls before I die. And I was like, right, no, we're not having any of that. We're having none of that. Right? Look at Lewis Senior at 70. Look at Bob Proctor at 86. Live a life of purpose and get on with it. You know what I mean? So there's no retirement, is there, Lewis, when you do what you love?
No, I've always understood. You know, people say, when are you going to retire? I'd say, well, first of all, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, that's top and bottom of it.
Yeah.
So I certainly have no. But I do think one thing that is worth thinking about, especially for some of your clients who are, you know, towards, let's say they're in the third season of their life, is to be thinking about their legacy. And for a lot of people, they may well have gone through the first part of their lives and been resistant to coaching and thinking they know everything about everything, but they suddenly realize. I had somebody I was talking to the other day, and I said, so what's your legacy going to be? And they went, I don't care. I said, so that's the legacy you're leaving, is you don't care. Oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. So then, you know, let's start working on that. Never too late.
No, that's right. That's right. That's beautiful. And, you know, yeah, it's never too late to actually like put something positive into the world. You know, if it takes you, you can write a book. Some people have written books in 2 weeks. You know, it took me a little bit longer. It took me 12 months of writing and probably 9 years of trying to get time to make the idea, you know, and make it actually happen. But, you know, some people can take 2 weeks off and write a book. Well, do it. You know, do it. Don't wait. You know, don't waste any more time. You know, it's not about the money. You got to do what feels good for you. And one of the things I coach people on is just allowing themselves to get in touch with them, you know, their real inner core. Be able to bring their creativity to the surface and then really start living rather than struggling. You know, it's not meant to be a struggle life. You know, it's not meant to be hard work. One of my coaches said to me, this is easy, this is simple, this is fun. And that's certainly what I find, you know, with life. It is easy, it's simple, it's fun when you decide to make it so. You know, and the power is in the decision. You know, if you don't make a decision, you will end up kind of like, you know, Or did you call me the London Lighthouse, didn't you, Lewis? Of keeping everyone off the rocks. But if you don't make a decision, it's very easy for you to end up on the rocks, you know, and not actually having a purposeful, joyful life. So look, what we'll do is we'll finish up with the remix opportunities. Otherwise, we would be here all night because the three of us are you know, very, very in tune with each other and understanding a lot about what we're doing. And so wonderful to have so many people listening and watching across all the pages. I noticed we've got disconnected on a couple of pages, but apologies for that, obviously. So look, let's discuss these together before we end up this evening. Gratitude is the start of all inner happiness. What do you think, Lewis?
No, totally and utterly agree with that. And you have to be. I mean, I continue, and I know you do as well. I'm continually thanking people. I even on Facebook, a while back, I took the 10 people that I wanted. Started off with 10 ladies in my life. Started with my wife, which was a pretty good move, and then my mother. But
well played.
but then went on to 10 guys, and then I realized there's so many more people. And you know what? So many people wrote to me and said, you have no idea the impact this had on me. And for some people, it's quite natural and instinctive to do that. And others just would never even consider it. But you'd lose absolutely nothing by showing and giving gratitude. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm really grateful to you two for being here this evening for a start. I'm really grateful for the technology that allows us to do this. I'm really grateful for Chelsea being 1-0 up in the Champions League semi-final. I'm really grateful for many things. I'm really grateful for many things. I'm really grateful for everyone who's bought Life Remixed, and of course, the free Kindle campaign is coming up. And from your perspective, gratitude Charlotte, you know, how's it, has it changed your life in some way? Like it was very profound for me. Has it?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, my dad was a great sort of teacher to me on that front. You know, he would always be very exuberant about saying thank you to the waitress in the restaurant, or he'd make a real fuss of the checkout lady in Tesco and thank her for her service. And I also really love, it was a real light bulb moment for me, actually, that quote you shared quite recently about, if you're not grateful for what you've got, what makes you think you'll be happy with more? And I was like, oh my God, that is so profound. It's so true, isn't it? You have to get with the moment of like, wow, I've got a home to live in, I've got a beautiful daughter, you know, I've got money coming in, I've got fresh organic produce in the fridge and all of that. If you're not grateful for those things, no amount of more is going to fill that hole in the soul. You know, it's just not going to do it. You've got to, it's an inside job basically. And I just think, I love, you know, when people take the time to thank me, it's just, it can almost move me to tears sometimes. It's just like, wow, somebody noticed. So it's like, I feel like it's just one of those things that we can do for each other in life that is helpful. And of course, always don't make it up, just come from the place of truth, you know, so be grateful with the absolute truth, but there's always a good thing to find to share. So yeah, it's a huge one.
I probably send about, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 emails a day. I'm not sure. There's lots of stuff going on in my life with multiple businesses, but I end every email, I write, thank you, Mark, you know, and I'm genuinely grateful for someone reading my email or wanting to like work with me or be a part of something we're working or anything like that. But I've got a email signature, but I write thank you, physically write. It's not just there and it just turns up on every signature. It's actually written and I type it and I say thank you 100 times a day. And it works. It works. I mean, I'm not so grateful for this particular bit of news, but it's one and a half time. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry, Charlotte. I realise this is not necessarily important to you, but the masculine energy, it's important. So,
I'm all for football. My family's all into Spurs. I can't say I massively follow them, but I do love a good England match.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, when England do well, we all get excited, don't we? Doesn't happen often. Right. Anyway, so responsibility is the key to freedom, Lewis.
Yeah, I think taking responsibility for your own actions and inactions is the key.
Very true. Very true. Very profound. Yeah. I mean, you know, doing nothing is also a decision. Yeah. You know, like you said about the legacy, you know, I don't care. Or one of your clients said, I don't care. Well, that's also a decision, isn't it? Anything is a decision. Even a non-decision or a non-action is you're deciding not to do something or whatever. So, you know, we have the power. There's a universal law that is create or disintegrate. And you have a power to have a creative thought just as easily as you do have a disintegrative thought, if that's a word. So yeah, more stuff I've written here. Get into successful thinking and study successful people. Charlotte, I appreciate you studying with me in life. But of course, you've got lots of other people. I mean, you know, there's lots of other inspirations out there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I've just always done that. I think I have to find that person who is in the kind of future that I'm trying to create, if you like, and bring that into my present. So like you, I went to UPW and watched Tony Robbins doing his 16-hour crazy talking from the stage thing that he does, and you think, how do you do that? That's incredible. And then walked over fire and all of that. And you know, I mean, like, there are too many to name. It's absolutely, that for me is crucial to moving forward in life.
Well, certainly, you know, for top color yellows in e-colors, we want to know who's involved and we want to know how we can be involved. You know, they just include me. You know, if people don't include me in stuff, I'm like, oh, you know, I really want to be included. Come on, you know, let's get involved. Let's do something, you know. And so, yeah, that's something that I have to hit my pause button with a little bit and understand that I can't be involved in everything. Emma is just saying, love it, Lewis. Taking responsibility for your actions and inactions is the key. So, yeah, it's really powerful. So good to know that Emma's supporting as always as well. And also one of the Lynn Kaczmarek, who's top your color yellow and does a lot of e-colors in education and sports in America. She was an Olympic water polo player for the US and stuff. And she said that she actually actively seeks out green, top color greens to be able to help her, because she's like 45% yellow in e-colors, and she's like, I'm all over the shop. And so she loves to have a green person. So yeah, you know, I married one. Last few points. We make our own circumstances. I think there's a Napoleon, as in Napoleon Bonaparte, who said something like, circumstances, what do you mean circumstances? We create them. I think that's very, very true. You know, it's we do create. I had to understand I created all of those circumstances, the dis-ease and the bankruptcy. I created all of it, and it was hard to accept. Really, really hard to accept. I didn't want to hear that. You know, I wanted to be, poor me. You know, everyone feels sorry for me. It shouldn't have happened, and like, you know, but you know, it took a special moment in my life when Bob Proctor said, "Your way isn't working, try mine," and I went, okay. And that in itself, I started to understand that I made my own circumstances, and then I started to play a little game with myself about, okay, so what great circumstance can I create today? And I started very, very small, and then I thought I was dreaming big, but I started small, and I just built up and built up and built up, and it continues on. And as Lewis very kindly said in his forward, I'm still only young at 50. So there's a lot more that we can achieve here. You know, we are literally just warming up. So that's really positive. You mentioned earlier, Charlotte, that you loved always become the observer. And that's your own emotions in every sense, right?
Yeah, and it just means I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of my own feelings. When, you know, at 30, when I really was not in charge of my feelings whatsoever, I met a great, great mentor at that point who said, actually, you know, it's not sadness itself that's the problem. It's when people get sad about being sad. So essentially depression is like you're holding on to that momentary sadness, and you become more and more sad about being sad, you know. And I've been there. You know, in my 20s, I got sad about being sad, and, you know, ended up for me needing treatment, you know, for my mind. And what was amazing to discover was the power to become happy about happy was in my mind too. Yeah. And, you know, like I say, you know, when my dad died, you know, I needed to have those moments where I had a good cry, but it passes so quickly. It passes so quickly, and then the joy is always there for me, the joy of being here and being alive and having known him and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's just so inspiring to have this conversation with you too, because I know you've both been through circumstances in life where things have hit that rock bottom, you know, and you've created amazing things from it. So I think don't be afraid of that happening in your life either. You know, don't be afraid of hitting the floor, because the only way is up, baby.
Very good. I mean, you know, there's no such thing as failure. You know, I think that's something that Lewis and I learned, you know, certainly for me, when I lost all my money, and more importantly than that, when I lost all my health, it took away the fear of it. Because I was like, well, if I can recovering from the incurable disease once and running marathons, by the time I lost all my money off the back of everything else that went on, I was kind of like, well, you know, okay, it's happened, but at least I can still walk around, you know. And, you know, there was always a positive from it. And so, you know, I think it's an interesting discussion. And it was, if I bring it up, Lewis, we'd be here for another hour. But, you know, about whether or not you have to go through those experiences to actually then grasp life and be really, really grateful for everything. You know, can you get there without having to go through the huge crisis? We could talk another hour for that. It's a great question. Perhaps we need to write a book on that, Lewis. Yeah, always becoming the observer, Lewis. I mean, you know, that's something that I think you developed when you went through your own crisis, I think.
Very, very much so. And you know, at the end of the day,
there you go.
I think
we should have a little pot every time someone mentions it. We should put a pot.
So, but I do think if you had to wrap it all up, is the way that I try and look at it these days. You take every day as a privilege, And no more important, no more obvious than what's going on today. I was talking to the vice president of Chevron the other day, who'd just come from a meeting where things didn't go great for him. And I said, "How are you feeling?" He said, "Well, I felt quite bad until I watched what's going on in Brazil. There's people dying at a rate that's been unheard of right now. And so it's all of us should take every single day. You wake up, privilege. Let's make the most of that day." And to me, that's top and bottom of it.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, as far as I'm sure your dad's smiling down on you listening to what you're saying today. But we're all going to go eventually. Nobody's beating the system, right? So you better enjoy it while you can, leave the best memories you can, and just do the best you can for yourself and other people. And that to me is top and bottom of it right there.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, mate. It's brilliant. And the last couple on here, believing is seeing, which I know we've covered already. It is, believe in yourself. Lewis had a dream at 50 years of age to, create a coaching company, and here he is 20 years later, and he's done it, through hook or by crook, or through challenges and everything that's gone on. Equilibria is a well-respected company around the world. I believe you said the other day, Lewis, 2 million people have done their personality diversity indicator now.
Somewhere around there, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely
amazing. 2 million people around the world. I mean, wonderful stuff. And used in an ethical way, as we said earlier. And so, believe in what this was a figment of my imagination once. And now here it is, in all its glory. And you just have to believe. Keep believing that you're going to do something and achieve something, and it will actually, turn up in your life. So, Charlotte, you need to just continue and cultivate that, that faith, that muscle. Keep going, because Starlight will turn into this wonderful children's books, and you will become as wealthy as you want to be, because you'll help so many parents and so many kids, right? So that's all powerful. So make sure you keep going. I'm looking forward to seeing you again a couple of times in May, of course, as well. And the last point on the chapter 6 thing is faith it until you make it. Well, actually it says fake it, but I've put a bit of pen for it. It says faith now, or face it as well. So but face it until you make it. Face it until you make it. But just really choose to not allow negative emotions to win, I would say. Is there anything either of you would like to add at the moment?
Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not going to feel like fluent language straight away, is it? So I think the fake it till you make it, it's an acceptance that it will be quite uncomfortable at first. Any growth and change is, you always say that, getting comfortable with being not in your comfort zone, essentially. So it's kind of reframing that experience. I mean, from my own perspective, I'm in quite a comfort zone at the moment. I've released my book. I've got 25, clients. Everything's great. I'm very comfortable. I'm like, okay. All I'm thinking about now is what's next. What are we going to do next? Right. We're going to put on an event. It's going to be 100 people there. We're going to start with 100 people. Everyone will be there. I'll be at the ministry. I'm going to go and join the members club there and network with all the old people that I used to work with. We're going to put on this huge event, and I'm going to stand up and be a public speaker in front of 100 people, and then 500 people, and 5,000 people. And I'm going to keep moving outside of that comfort zone, because why not? Do you know what I mean? So let's leave the last word to Lewis, because he's our Yoda to our yours and my Luke Skywalker, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you are, Lewis. You are. You're the wise man. You're the sage who's learned so much and helped so many people. So let's leave the last word to you on Life Remixed and e-colors and everything else we're doing.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, and again, both to you, Mark, and Charlotte, and for all the people who are listening. I was talking to one of my clients this afternoon, and she said, "Why do you call your coaching program Intentional Leadership?" And I said, well, funnily enough, because I've realized way too late in life that the more intentional you are, the better the outcome. It is no more complicated than that. And so I think everything that you're advocating, Mark, through Life Remix and everything we're doing together, I think the more intentional we are and why we're doing it, the purpose, like you talked about, really, really sets the tone for everything else. So I just want to let you know, I really appreciate what you're doing. I love the fact we're doing all of this together. And I am genuinely excited about what you're doing. And I have no doubt, it may be 5,000 one day and it could be 50,000 the next. But you are definitely impacting people for the better. And that I think there's nothing better than that in life, frankly.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Thank you. And that's my life purpose. My life purpose is to bring joy, bring knowledge, inspire and create. And you know, I want to be responsible for people, you know, like Charlotte, you know, and like you, Lewis, as well, and everyone who's listening, everyone who watches this back and catch up and anything like that. I want to be responsible for those people being inspired and saying, I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to let the fear win. I am going to go for this. You know, I'm going to sit on my rocking chair when I mean, look at you, Lewis, you're young spring chicken. So I'm going to say when I'm sitting on my rocking chair at 90, you know, when I'm sitting on my rocking chair at 90 years of age, you know, I had a really good go and it was amazing. Because there can be nothing, look, I can't say this with any authority, but I feel that there can be nothing worse than sitting, you know, on your rocking chair or even your deathbed. We're all going to get there one day, and thinking,
if only
I could have done that a bit different, couldn't I? You know, I could have had a go there, you know, and I didn't take the opportunity, or I didn't, you know, if only. Exactly right. So look, I'm going to go and see my wife and my puppy and my football team all at once. And Jason's just saying an interesting session. Thank you all for the positivity. Big up, Jason. Thank you, mate. Emma's just got some love hearts for all of us. And it's really wonderful. Make sure you watch this on Catch Up if you haven't caught it all live. It's been a fascinating discussion on Chapter 6. I'll be back tomorrow night with Kenny Thomas, soul singer sensation. Kenny Thomas is going to be back on Straight Talking. He's going to be on Straight Talking with me tomorrow night, and he is one fascinating character, Kenny. I promise you, you're gonna love that interview with him. And then more Straight Talking things lined up, and lots of other guests, and book club again next Tuesday. So I'm going to let you two lovely people go. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, and I'll just let everyone else go first. Yeah, wave goodbye and all that. I'll let everyone else go.